Christians murmuring about their imperfections and their failures and their addictions and their shortcomings. Murmur, murmur, murmur. Why am I this way? Make war!
Coming at you live from North Texas, from the Inside Out podcast of redemption. I'm your host, Blindx. Today I'm going to be talking about my story, my testimony, that it all started when I was young, and I was, very good at sports since I was 5 years old, in football, basketball, and baseball. I was in trouble kid, and what ended up happening is my mom had to put me in sports. That's why I was in all three sports, to keep me busy in everything that I was doing. And it worked, and then it became through high school, did the same thing, football, baseball, basketball. And then I had a scholarship for baseball. But what ended up happening, I ended up meeting my ex-wife, that we got together, and then we ended up having a little girl, and I thought that was the most important part, is as being a man, of taking care of responsibilities that's of my of taking care of her and loving her. And so I ended up letting my ex-wife go to school, put her to school while I have to work, and watch her during the night. And then after that, started getting into more big time trouble, because my family, most of them, I would say all of them, they were all in the mafia, as well as me. Most of them, first cousins, second cousins, they're either dead or in prison. I have some that are two life sentences, some at 40, some at 30, and it just goes on and on. In my story, I end up, I had to sell drugs to keep the lifestyle that I wanted and to keep my family afloat. And once that happened, after I did all that, I had to, join the mafia. I won't say what kind of mafia or who. Can't say that right now. But my brother was one of I looked up to my brother a lot. My brother was a big inspiration for me, but in a bad way, but I still loved him. He died at 40 years old. I had my brother, my sister, and myself. He died at 40 years old. My sister died at 38. And also my dad passed away. This is within 8 years. And then what happened to me is I was working. After that, I ended up getting divorced to my ex-wife. Ended up traveling the United States in the car business. And I ended up coming back home. And when I came back home, no one told me anything about what was going on, what was happening. It was another family, another cartel that was trying to take over in an area that they're not supposed to. And what ended up happening is I went to a bar. I seen a couple of guys. We got into a fight, and I beat up all three of them really bad. And then I left to another bar. And then after that bar ended up closing, I ended up walking outside to my Tahoe. And when I walked outside, well, I got into my Tahoe, and I just started smoking a cigarette. And then after that, I seen somebody coming from the shadows. I had my gun on my lap, but I didn't want to scare anybody. So the next shadow came, and I just turned my head, and I seen a shotgun staring at me. The only thing I could do is raise my right hand where I got shot with a 12 gauge sawed-off shotgun. And so it blew a big hole inside my armpit, and then I was just laying there. He reached in, point blank, put the gun to my face, and shot me again. Then I was just sitting there, still alive, after two 12 gauge shells that tried to end my life. But again, I heard a voice, and it was a Holy Spirit that talked to me and saying, you need to get up or you're going to die. And I ended up getting up and trying to find the front, because I was in the back, parked in the back. Ended up getting walking, and blood was just coming out from my face, from my body, choking on it, and still trying to pursue myself into getting into the front. And then I couldn't see anything because blood was everywhere in my eyes and everywhere else. And then I ended up hitting a big green trash can, the ones that you see in Waste Management or other companies. But I had so much blood in my hands, I hit it and slipped, and then I hit the side of where they lift the trash cans up, the machines. I ended up hitting my mouth on it, broke a couple of my teeth, and after that, I still got up and was trying to walk to the front, and still I walked to the front, and I end up falling down in front of the club. And there was a girl out there that saved me as well, that she turned me over for me to not choke on my own blood. They called 911. They ended up taking me to a hospital where I was life flighted. On the way to San Antonio University Hospital, I died 2 times on the airplane, and they had to give me 2 blood transfusions. When I got there on the operating table, I ended up dying 2 times, and they brought me back to life. And then after that, I had a stroke on top of the 18-hour surgery that paralyzed the whole left side of my body. And once they did all the surgeries they needed to do, I was sitting in the chair, and when I spent about 3 months in a coma, that when I woke up out of the coma, because I had the titanium steel holding my face together, my jaws wired shut, a trach in my throat. I had a peg tube in my stomach for they can feed me out of. I had multiple surgeries everywhere, and when I came back, came back into this world, and I asked the doctor, take off this stuff off my eyes, I can't see anything. The doctor told me, well, I'm sorry, but we cannot do that. And I'm like, I was really mad, upset, and he said, you're blind, we got to keep them on. So that was my life starting on now, was being blind. I was a vegetable. I had Pampers. They had to change me. They had to feed me from my peg tube. And then I had all that happen to me. So I had to go to different floors. Each floor that I went on, I got better and better and better in recovery. And I ended up recovering, and I had to learn how to walk, talk again, just like a newborn. And that was very hard for me because when I tried to start walking the first time, I couldn't even stand up because my left side was paralyzed. And then once I started working it out more and more, it was very painful, and I ended up re getting my balance again, getting my leg in, strengthened again. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. I've been through the whole thing from death to where I am now with 9 children and blind. I raised each one of my children, and so at the time I only had 2 that I had to get home to because I wanted to still be there for my kids. That was my motivation to start working hard to try to get back to them again. And then I was in a wheelchair. They rolled me into about 12 to 15 doctors, and they all told me that they were going to put me in a nursing home. There's nothing else that I can do for you. And so I still end up working harder for them not to send me to a nursing home, that I would be okay living with my parents, or my mom or my dad, because they were divorced. So after that, I was at the hospital, and there's a pastor that came in the room asking me, do you know Christ? And I said, yes, I do. I know him. He asked me, do I have a personal relationship with Christ? And I told him, no, I do not. So he prayed for me, led me into a prayer that I was going to be saved. And that was a big moment for me. It was a big burden lift. It lightened my load a lot. To give God all the burdens from everything that I was carrying, to give it to him, that he would carry it for me. And once I finally got out of the hospital, they did not send me to the nursing home, thank God. And I ended up going home to my father's house. And my father helped me. He worked his butt off all his life since he was in 5th grade. And he took care of me while he was working, and I was in bed rest, and then I had my brother there. If I needed to go to the restroom, he would lift me up and put me on the like this portal potty thing that he would lift me up and put it on there if I needed to go to the restroom. So then when he did that lots of times, and I just started to pray a lot. I started to meditate a lot. And then I ended up going to my mother's house. So, because seems like I was more of a burden. That's how I felt to my father, which he didn't feel that way. It was the way that I felt now that I see it that way. Then I went to my mom's house, ended up staying with my mom. I had my own room, and I had 3 audio Bibles, and then I ended up reading all the Bibles, the King James, the New Living, and the NIV of the Bibles. I read front to back of them probably about 5 times each. And then I ended up going one day there was a girl that I knew from school, and it's funny how things work out, how when you're kind to others and others can be kind to you back. When I moved with my mom, I had no one there, but she lived right across from me. She ended up she ended up um, coming over, taking care of me because my mom had to go to work. She would take care of me, and she would bring life into me again. She would take me to different places to get out of the house because I was always cooped in the house, and so she would take me to different trips with her daughter, different places, and then I end up, and her mom was, she's my spiritual godmother, and she ended up taking me to church with her and her mom, and after that, I started to do a lot of things, telling my testimony of myself, and so then I went back to my home church that was there in where I lived, and so I ended up starting a men's ministry called Brothers of God, and we started with 5 guys, and ended up at the end over probably 15,000 guys or more. A lot of them got saved. A lot of them changed their lives. They were drug dealers. They were users. They were all different. There were Satanists. There was so many different religions, Catholic, Lutheran, whole bunch of different, just coming together for just Christ only. Just the word that's in the Bible that feeds us, feeds our spirit. And I ended up having a whole bunch of different people coming in to come speak, different pastors, and I also had lessons to sharpen each other, like discipleship is what we did a lot of. And after that, I had a lot of men's conferences that I've also did, and then I became an outreach pastor and was helping others in different kind of ways. And finally, I also, a church needed an outreach pastor, and I ended up moving over there to become their outreach pastor at another church. And so I did that for a while, and my family was also growing. They needed me a lot more, so I started to mentor all my children, and it was just getting a little bit too much for myself, to my health and everything like that. So ended up raising, during my ministry, it was a men's ministry as well as a women's ministry called Sisters of God. And that's where I met my wife. And we had, she had 2 and I had 2. So we end up having, I gotta count all this, guys. So she had 2 and I had 2. So I end up adopting my son and my daughter, and I end up having my son, and then another son that I had, and then a daughter that I had with her as well, and then another daughter recently. Today, she's 7 months. So I had 9 children. So my goals was to raise them in the Word of God, in the Bible, or in as well as church. But I had to take the lead role as a man, as a spiritual head in my household. So I had to take that, responsibility for all of them. But we had my wife. That's another story we'll be talking about later on. But all this everything that I'm telling you, the crime pictures, the the um, the pictures when I was in the hospital, all this is in a CD that I have that I'm going to be putting on for subscribers and members as well. So so what ended up happening, I just ended up moving from where I was from to North Texas, and because of my wife's job, and it was awesome just living here and then having other children. So what I'm trying to say is that God can bring you from death to life and abundance of life. I had 2 children. I was in the mafia. I had nothing to live for, and ended up bringing everything back and more. And it's just awesome. It's an awesome feeling to have, to teach my boys how to become spiritual men, and also my daughters to be godly women. And I'm so thankful for that. But today, guys, just also, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and like to our podcast. And then also, if you're on Twitch, just follow us, guys, and to help us out and get the word of Jesus out. And thank you for listening, and thanks for all of y'all. I really appreciate it. Blindx out.